it's time to leave Manila and head to Mabalacat, Pampanga in the Philippines. Here's a map of Clark, and you can see how close it is to the San Francisco barangay. Here's a street map of the house, and in red you can see Rosalina's house location. The Clark International Airport is really a nice facility, and a lot of woodwork that's just amazing in how they built the structure for the new airport. And a picture of Rosalina's old home place, or at least the house she has in the Philippines since about 1987. Of course, the first thing is to meet Mom Maria, who turned 98 years old on this trip, who sometimes stays at the house. And here they are sitting on the front porch chatting away. Next, you can see me walking the streets, getting the lay of the land, and this is just a picture kind of the neighborhood. The houses in the background, neighbors' lot there right behind me. I show the grandbabies how you washing clothes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they'd say hi, Gigi. Hi, Nani. Grandma washing clothes.
Grandma washing clothes.
Washing the rag.
Because she don't have too many to wash in the washing machine.
Yeah.
We used to wash like that at home when I'm little. And here's a drying mechanism that I paid way too much for. I could have got a lot cheaper one had I asked my Filipino friends. We were lucky in that it was barangay or town fiesta time. So here's a little view of the parade as it winds through the neighborhood streets. Following this, I'll show you some pictures of the really gorgeous church that is there in the neighborhood. One of many. There's a lot of churches located throughout the neighborhood or the barangay. Here's a very large and beautiful church, probably one of the largest in Mabalacat, Catholic church that had some special masses and ceremonies during the town fiesta. And while exploring the house after we'd arrived, I found these two pieces of wood and wondered what they were. It took me a while to figure it out, but finally one of my nephews explained it to me. He said, well, those are two pieces of boards that you turn into a cross, and if you notice, you can take one, turn it perpendicular to the other, and you can bolt them together and it becomes a cross. And of course, Easter is one of the most popular holidays in the Philippines. And what they will do is they will use this cross and what they call penitence. They sometimes tie themselves to the cross, or they'll drag the cross through the streets over their shoulders to religious ceremonies and such. So that's what it was. I was glad we found it and didn't actually throw it away, because it does have meaning to a lot of folks in the Philippines. And so I guess this past Easter they probably used it. Just to show you my home street here for a month or so. Walk past the barangay basketball court. Yes, they love to play basketball and volleyball. That's the barangay, which is like the neighborhood official offices. This street. And people are doing their washing, drying their clothes. Kind of like how we used to do it. It works, the sun dries them pretty well. Coming up on the street where me and Rosalina live, at least for a month or so, Len's on this street. And those trees are actually giant mango trees. You'd have to have a very tall ladder to have the mangoes. But, back to the neighborhood, time to eat at McDonald's. Yes, one of my favorite meals in the Philippines. Sweet pandesal bread and a ripe tomato. Real tomato, not a cardboard tomato like we're used to eating in the States. This is from somebody's backyard. Very nice. And a short, nice visit from one of our nieces, Leonisa, known as Gaga, and her daughter. And of course, it didn't take too long for a Cuajo game to get started at the house. Here you see a group of ladies playing Cuajo. Again, it's a very popular game they play. It's kind of like rummy, but much more complicated, using Spanish cards that kind of blow my mind, but someday I'll figure it out. They have a lot of fun playing the game. Now, I like bunny rabbits, and luckily our next door neighbor has two gigantic rabbits that he raises, I guess just as pets, but they have a big yard to play in. Of course, coming to the Philippines, you have to adapt to the Filipino culture, and this is one thing you have to do. In many homes, they don't have a shower per se, or they may have a shower head and they just don't use it. They'll use a bucket of water and a scooper, and that's how they take their shower. And sometimes there's not a hot water heater, so it actually works pretty well because you kind of got more control over that cold water hitting your face or kind of rolling down your back. So it works out pretty well. And of course, the scooper can be used for washing other things as well if you're using the bathroom or something and you need to use it. But for Americans, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but not too difficult. It's pretty easy to pick it up. Taking my 5-minute walk to McDonald's. That's right. I can't find a regular Filipino food store, so restaurant. So I just go to McDonald's. I'll find one eventually. One of the common questions that people ask is, how much does food cost in the Philippines? Well, here's my Big Mac meal, and it's actually very good. In fact, their French fries sometimes better than what you get in the States. But this whole meal cost me about 250 to 350 pesos, somewhere in that range, which is $6 or $7. A little bit cheaper than in the States. Our driver did introduce us to this really nice Pampangan food restaurant on MacArthur near Fields Avenue, or now commonly referred to as Walking Street. Great food. Okay, I'm showing you around Grandma D's house. There we go, and the gate. This gate keeps the dogs and cats out. It's like a carport where you park your tricycles or cars. And where Grandma D gonna wash her clothes in a minute in the bucket. See, then a little space back here. Gonna go back in the house. Little porch. As luck would have it, while we were there, Miss San Francisco Boating Guy 2023 was crowned, and although I didn't get a picture of her, I got a picture of the tail end of her entourage. And unknowingly, I had already become friends with her grandmother, Dorit, who lives in the neighborhood. Maybe I can get an invitation. As I've said before, one of the most enjoyable things of the Philippines are the people. And here's one of our neighbors, Mary, and her two beautiful granddaughters. One of the things that Filipinos love are their indoor malls, much more so than folks in the United States right now. Here's me and Rosalina as we're walking toward the main gate to catch a jeepney from the mall to head back to her house in Mabalacat. Well, up until this point, I was a pedicure virgin. That's right. Until Mercy, one of the pedicurists in the neighborhood, came by and gave both me and my wife Rosalina a pedicure. Actually, it was kind of fun. I think I might do it again. Of course, it didn't take long before Rosalina decided she was going to remodel her house. But in the process of doing that, I rummaged through some of Mom Maria's old photographs and found these. Rosalina swears these are pictures of her, and she's somewhere in this large group. I guess I have to trust her. I can't tell. Yeah, it's sprinkling and raining here in the Philippines, in Mabalacat. Rosalina's afraid she's gonna get wet, hiding around the corner. Hey, there's a neighborhood doggy. Hey, doggy. Let's sit out here and watch it rain. Hello. Just a little view of the night sky from our street. Yes, we did visit a couple of the casinos very briefly. I think this is the Han Casino on Clark, and a nice eating establishment. Since Rosalina decided to remodel her house, we had to go get another copy of the old deed, which we did not have. But we got to go to the Mabalacat City Hall, which is a really nice facility, a few minutes from where her house is. This is at the Marquee Mall, which is kind of in central Angeles City. Hair salon where I had a haircut, and then Rosalina and I eating at one of the Filipino food places. This is Rosalina, her mom Maria, and her brother Pedro relaxing on her sister Gina's patio, which is located in the city of Madapdap, about a 15-minute drive from where Rosalina's house is. Luckily, my sister-in-law was kind enough and brother-in-law kind enough to allow us to stay there during the remodeling, which was pretty much the last half of our trip in Mabalacat. But they have a great house, very big lot next to some very huge houses in Madapdap. It's kind of strange because you have to wiggle your way through Madapdap to get to the edge of the neighborhood where they live, but it's a really interesting neighborhood and a nice house. Well, they've started the remodeling, and here's a few pieces to show how they're getting started. But while we were at my sister-in-law's house, we got a visit from one of our nephews, Avon, and Avon, his beautiful wife, Riza, and their cute little baby, Vaughn, had a great time talking with each other for a couple hours at the sister-in-law's house. Of course, here's Rosalina back at her house You can tell that she's supervising. Here's Jerome, the contractor in red, with Avon and one of their other relatives checking it out. And of course, out on the street, you can see the tricycles of the workers coming in and they're working on the roof. And here's our neighbor Mary with Rosalina, the supervisor, checking everything out. I mentioned how close her house is to the overflights, and here you go. Yes, I'm a cat lover, and here's a few cat pictures. I think the last one in the picture series, or maybe the second one, this one became my buddy at my sister-in-law's house, and then a few others roaming around, and even Pedro's little puppies came out for a visit every once in a while into the yard. We decided to go with Pedro one evening in Madapdap to go get a shawarma, so we're at a shawarma or stand here in Madapdap. I guess I should say, if you expect pizzas and shawarmas and everything to be like they are in the States, it's going to be hard to find that type. But the food is very good. It's just made in a little different style. But they have some very good fast food places as well as sit-down restaurants. This is the nice hobby garden that the wonderful neighbors to my sister-in-law's house are growing. And they take great care of it. They water it a couple times a day usually during the dry season, and it's got some wonderful grass, trees, and plants of all kinds. So it's a really nice little hobby garden that they have and enjoy. Why would I take a picture of a Mountain Dew bottle, plastic Mountain Dew bottle, fluorescent yellow, green? That's because they make all kinds of novelty things out of them. I didn't take a picture of it, but I tried to make little helicopters for the kids out of them while I was there. Some were successful, some failed, but it is a beautiful little bottle. Okay, I'm gonna try to interview the chickens, or the rooster. There's several here in Gina's house. Pretty chicken. What's your name? Do you have a name? No. You're not scared of it? You okay? You're okay. This is a chicken in Gina's house. I don't know why this chicken. I think this may be a girl chicken. Maybe a hen. I don't know. It doesn't have a crown. For some reason, she stays in the cage. I don't know. Maybe this one likes to fight or something. It's a pretty chicken. Give you a view of my sister-in-law Gina's house, brother-in-law's house. Madapdap, Philippines now. Right behind her house is a huge 2 or 3 story house. I believe it's I think an Australian foreigner owns that one. Comes to visit every once in a while. And one reason we have at least a good LTE cell phone signal is because just a lot or two over is a cell tower, so there we go. Lots of. By the way, that big tree for you non-tropical people is a mango tree. And actually, I'll show you some of the mangoes. They're not ripe yet, but when they are, there'll be a whole lot of mangoes on this mango tree. So there you go. If you like mangoes, that's what the tree looks like. And then they have, I forget which tree it is. One's a guava tree. But strangely, Filipinos don't eat too many guava anymore like they used to. Here's some they picked off or fell off the tree the other day. All those fresh guavas that cost you a fortune in the States. It's falling off the trees over here. Well, anyway, let's see. Let me show you another house. This house is in kind of the outskirts of a town city called Madapdap in the Philippines, Pampanga province. But there are some very huge houses being built within the next other few blocks of here. Next door is a nice apartment, a couple of apartment buildings, really nice. what a lot of people do. They build a house and then they use the apartments for income. Next house over there that you see is supposedly a very huge, very modernistic house. The old-fashioned pump, like we used to use at home. Usually they'll have, like here they have about 2 or 3 wells that they have in the other lot here, and I think even one on another part of this lot. But generally you don't drink the groundwater here. You drink bottled water because the way the soil is and the way the septic systems are and how close they are together, you don't drink the groundwater. But everybody drinks bottled water, and they use the groundwater, well water for irrigation for the plants and stuff like that. Okay, just so you know, this is our typical Filipino washing machine. Well, it's the wash bucket, like we used to use in the old days in the hills of Missouri. Wash your clothes in one bucket, you rinse them in another, and hang them up outside to dry. Works pretty well. And if you do it often enough, it's not too much trouble. But, this is how they do it. They do have washing machines, but the water flow over here is not too fast, so the washing machines are usually small and you can't put too big of a load in them. But this works great. There's something else to explain to you about the Philippines. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that almost all the homes, lots, businesses have a lot of security walls. I suppose there is crime that may be fairly prevalent, but most of us never see it. But they have a lot of, locked gates, doors. Some even have concertina wire at the top of their fences, but here they don't really need it. The interesting thing is that if you live in a neighborhood where everybody knows each other, there's very little risk at all. But you will see a lot of security things that everybody has. I don't know if it's for protection or more of a cultural thing or what. I know in like Central South America, some places have a lot of security, but it's more of just a cultural thing than guarding against rampant, theft or something. But anyway, we feel comfortable here, and all the neighbors are great, so no problem. You'll notice the bigger homes, they have the security cameras. They also typically have day, you wouldn't call them maids, they're like housekeepers. They either live there or they come in daily and check the property in the house, and they'll have security cameras that the owners can actually check from overseas. In fact, while we're here in the Philippines, we have our security cameras turned on at home in Texas, and I can go on and within seconds check the house, check who's there, all that kind of stuff. So with today's technology, that's the way it works. But just to give you kind of an idea, if you see all the security things, don't be too worried. Just be smart, don't be stupid, pay attention, and everything's fine. I had a wonderful visit with our niece Evangeline, her husband, and Mom Maria at Gina's house, our sister-in-law's house. Had a great talk and had a lot of fun telling stories. One of our typical things to do at my wife's house would be to visit with our neighbor Mary, who's in the yellow t-shirt, this time with Mom Maria on the left and Doris on the right, who's the grandmother of the 2023 San Francisco Barangay Beauty Queen. And right before we left, we had a great meal at the SM Mall at Clark with Mama Maria, my wife's brother Mario, and brother Pedro. And it's a very nice restaurant in the mall. Here's me and Mama Maria hanging out in the mall, and we had a good time. We had a good visit with Mama Maria's younger brother and his partner, my wife Rosalina on the left, at our sister-in-law's house in Madapdap. So we had a long conversation and some good talks. One of the interesting connections to her younger brother is that his daughter Myrna is married to an American former Air Force member. And when we were stationed back in the States the first time at Bergstrom Air Force Base in Austin, Texas, my wife worked for transient housing on base, and one day a young Filipino lady walked by and made a statement. Ante Saling, is that you? It was his daughter Myrna. Unbeknownst to us, they had gotten stationed at Bergstrom and had arrived, and she just recognized my wife. And from then on, we had a lot of conversations together. They later moved to Colorado Springs, and I think that's where they reside now. Well, on March 31st, it was time for us to head to the Xenia Hotel at Clark and await our flight back to the States. Had a decent room, but we had some plans for when we got back stateside that we kind of made short notice. We decided that instead of going straight back to Austin, Texas, via LA and our hometown of Pflugerville, we would make a side trip to Las Vegas. So we were able to book a comp room and stayed at the Venetian, which is a terrific casino hotel to stay at. Saw the sights as we usually do, and actually made a little bit of money this time in Vegas. So not a bad trip after all. But had a good time, but we were definitely ready to head back home to Pflugerville, Texas, and especially to see our grandkids that live close to us, and that's the part we really enjoy when we come home. Oh, by the way, this is where my son parked the car. I did find it eventually. I've got several more videos coming up in the weeks ahead from our trip, so if you'd like, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button if you like, and keep in touch, and we'll get those videos out to you. Best wishes to all.